Hello again, and we are going to go over the basics of materials in the Unreal Engine today. And I mean the basics. I'm going to make this really short and quick. So again, when we're doing level design, I don't want textures, I don't want bricks or grass or cobblestone or anything that takes UVing. If your major is environmental arts, you have art skills, you can UV well, you know how to make textures, you know how to utilize textures well. There can be an exception, but I'm completely trying to avoid textures and materials with textures in level design. It's just completely distracting and takes a lot of time to make it look good. So let me just go over the very basics here. My tutorial level's open again, and I'm going to just create a couple really basic materials. So in my tutorial folder here, which is where I keep my stuff, I'm going to right click, and as you can see there's materials from the starter content. If you want to grab one of these and duplicate it and try and mimic what's in there and play with the settings, so let's duplicate metal gold real quick. Duplicate, and we'll call this metal gold test. Double click on it, and then we can look at what's going on in here. So there's a whole lot going on. The viewport is really nice at looking at the texture. It's really shiny. You can see the beautiful little indentations, the overall texture. Now this, what you basically start with in the beginning is just, if you were to start a material from scratch, is this here. And from there you go on to make it more complicated and more interesting. So here's where the UVs are. This is where, what's going here? This is where the roughness is set up, and roughness is just like it sounds, that makes the texture rough. And there's a whole series of parameters and nodes set up here to make this look like gold, which I'm not going to go into. But again, you can play with one of these and dissect it and see what's going on. I'm going to shut this, and we're going to go back and create one from scratch. So in my tutorial folder, which I'm trying to keep my level in and all my little extras, I'm going to right click and click on material, and I'm going to keep the same naming convention as Unreal. M underscore, let's do warm gray. So I already have like three basic grays inside of Unreal, and I'm going to utilize those to put text materials on my level. So I'm going to make one that's warm. I double click on it, and as you can see, this is what you start with. Black cylinder or sphere, and you have your empty, I'm not sure what you call this here, your empty material inputs. So if we just want to make a basic color, we go to the base color, drag it off, and we type in constant, and I misspelled it, constant 3 vector. So the 3 vectors stand for RGB. So when we look at the constant here, right now it's black. If I'm to double click on it, first I'll unroll this, see the RGB, double click, ta-da! All we're going to do is make a basic color. So I was thinking about making a warm gray to maybe put on doors and such to break it out from the cool neutral gray walls or cool gray walls. So let's pull the saturation down and make it kind of medium. Not too much color. Hit OK. Ta-da! You've made a very basic warm gray. So we can add other inputs to it. If you want it to look metallic and shiny like the gold, we can drag this off and add a constant and just add a single constant. So we have a single value. We can go between 0 and 1. If we make it 1, super shiny. And you can vary it from there down to 0. So I'm not going to have, well, I guess we will make a shiny door. We'll leave a shiny door. If you wanted to have roughness, which obviously makes it look rough, just like it sounds, you can add a constant one to that. And normals are obviously normals that make it look three-dimensional, interact with light, like you would have with bricks or cobblestone or such, and all of these other options, which I'm not going to go over. So there's an opacity and opacity mask you can add, all kinds of stuff. You could look into further tutorials. I don't know if I'll ever go over too many materials in my tutorials other than maybe adding a texture coming up when we create an enemy, how to put a face on a creature type of thing. That's about as far as I'll go. And I will show one more texture. So I'm just going to leave this as a shiny warm gray, and I'm going to save it. And I can close it for now. And it lives here. I have it selected. And let's make a door over here. To create a new brush, go to my BSP box. And since it was selected, it put the warm gray on it. Going to scale it. Actually, maybe I'll make it a big door that in my next tutorial will roll open. So what I'm going to do is we're going to make two. There's one. I'm going to copy and paste this one. Copy, paste. So I want the first one to be subtractive because I'm going to make an indentation in the wall. So I'm going to change the first one, which I really should start naming these. This is really bad organization. Everything I have here is named box brush, which I'm going to go over in another tutorial. Make sure you guys keep your files organized. Subtractive. So that's going to create an indentation in my wall. Now I'm going to take my second box brush, push it in a little bit, and as you can see, a little indentation here. Give a little more detail to the lighting, a little more detail to my level. Now it kind of looks like a garage door. Not very exciting, but it works. So let's hit play. Let's run over to our newly shaped door. And in another tutorial, I'll have a trigger open this up. It's not quite a garage door. Looks more like a storage locker. Maybe I'll put some storage boxes and things in here. Ta-da! Using my material to create a warm door. So second material I'm going to create is a material that glows and will actually cast light on its surrounding objects. And you can do this for multiple objects, but the one I want to do for is a text render object, which we use a lot in level design, or at least in this level design. The way I like to level design is I like to leave popcorn trails to my level and explain what's happening in my level for like missing gameplay. If there's some sophisticated gameplay you have to work on later, you have a monster appearing, you have an IGC, you have audio, anything like that. You want to, until that's in there, you want to put in one of these text render objects and tell us what exactly is going to happen here. So we're going to say, what should we have here? Intercom audio for now. And I'm not going to go into high detail of the text render object. We'll do that for another tutorial, but what we want to do is make this thing glow so when it's in the world, the lighting doesn't make it go dark and disappear. So intercom audio I'll put next to my door. So right now it's using this material. We go over here to the details. And by default, there's a default text material, opaque material that already exists. What I want to do is find it. Click on the magnifying glass. Find it in my content browser right away. And as you can see, it would be a real pain in the butt to find without clicking on this. And there it is. So what I'm going to do is right click on it and duplicate it. Duplicate. And I'm going to keep the name exactly the same, except I'm going to say glow. And what I'm going to do I'm going to drag and drop it to the texture folder. Move here. There it is, opaque glow, and the text runs out here. The box is too short, and the area is too short to display it all. So we have the exact same texture or material utilizing the text for the text render object. So what I want to do is select this one and apply it to this object. So I grab it here, and if I click this arrow, it's going to apply it to my text render object. Bam. So it looks exactly the same because there's nothing changed. So now we want to do is double click on it like we created the basic warm gray color before. So here's my material. It has a alphabet texture on it. And if we look at our material inputs, it has a couple things going on here. I'm not going to mess with the font and this lerp setting. I'm not going to mess with the base color. All I'm going to do is add an emissive color. The emissive will add a glow to it, and it'll cast light. So all I need is another constant, which I keep misspelling. And it's just a constant, single constant. And just like the metallic, we tune the value between 0 and 1 to make it glow. 1, it's like a light bulb. And you can see it a little bit in here with the letters starting to glow. So you can tune that down to 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, whatever, and you don't have to have lights near all your letters for the player to read it as they move through the level. It helps immensely. Don't forget to save. I'm going to close this. And it's been applied to this, so let's go on the level and see if we can even see it, because the level's pretty as well lit. It might not be glowing. Well, as you can see, it's stark white. It's a dark area. Can't really tell if anything's dark in here. Double click on it really quick. Just change it to 0. Save. Play. Oh yeah, it's a lot dimmer. There you go. So you can see the difference. Double click on it. Click on the constant, turn to 1. Save. So no matter where you put it in the level, it's going to glow brightly, and you're going to be able to see and read the text easily. Ta-da! That's your basics of material creation. Obviously, if you want to create things for like buttons that are red and green, that's also a good idea, but I'd stick with grays, ranging from neutral grays to grays, you know, that are slightly cool, slightly warm, and that's about it. I wouldn't go... There can be a few exceptions where you add materials that have something special to them. But you really want to reserve those for very special spots. And again, no UV mapping. The minute you have bad UVs in your level, it's going to look bad. It's going to look unprofessional. It's not worthy of a portfolio. It makes you look like you're sloppy and not paying attention. So stick with the basic colors and lighting, which I'll get to lighting in another tutorial. All right, that's it. Thank you much. Bye-bye.